And we are live. Hey, Lindsay, how are you?
I'm fantastic. How are you doing?
Good. Hey, everybody, this is my friend Lindsay, and we're going to talk today a little bit about permaculture, but really maybe not so much from the plant perspective as you would think about it, but more from how it all comes to be and kind of where it's going. And Lindsay has earned a ton of respect for me because she's managed to do something few people can do, which is build bridges. And we're going to talk about those things, I think, too. But first, Lindsay, can you just tell the audience, for those who don't know you, because a lot of them know you now, right? Because you've been around here a little bit, but not all strangers. But can you just tell everybody just a little bit about you, just so we can, and then we'll get on with it.
Yeah, you bet. So my name is Lindsay Brandon. I'm up here in Canada, in Calgary, Alberta, and I am a permaculture designer as well as leading a team of permaculture designers. So for Permaculture Canada, I'm actually doing two businesses. So
Mhm.
here on behalf of Permaculture Canada, but in development of armagarden, which
Yeah.
is so awesome and such a result of meeting you, Tag. So
Mhm.
I have you to thank for that inspiration as well as your entire community. Yeah, I've been growing up, farming and doing that sort of thing with my family my whole life. And when that whole fiasco thing happened a couple of years ago, I just thought, if this is the way the world is heading, I'm going to build myself a hempcrete dome in the woods. I'm going to fill it with my instruments and I'm going to disappear forever and just, go live a lovely life and build music in the trees, sort of thing.
Yeah.
So it actually led me to do a career switch, of course. So I was doing fitness and yoga, kickboxing, Zumba, dancing, personal training, for 15 years. And it was almost like doing permaculture was still along the line of, how to be a
Mhm.
human in the world. But
Yeah.
this was more, a little bit more integrated with the world, right, and with the earth, and how do we get our connection back
Mhm.
together, right? So seeing that the dissonance was happening because so many people were becoming disconnected from
Mhm.
their source of life, but I thought this is a good mission for me to take on. And I started farming and I started selling vegetables, sending them to people's doorstep, doing like 25 pounds of vegetables. We just pick them and throw them in the bag covered in mud and everything, just to like get people connected back to their food, understand what they have to do to process the stuff, and also, receive that nourishment through connecting to their food. So then that went, further down the rabbit hole. I decided to go and take my permaculture certification because there was a grant available where I am here in Alberta for small business owners, which I already was as Free Queen She, which is kind of like the umbrella of all the things that I've been doing up to this point. And yeah, just jumped in and absolutely loved it and thought, wow, permaculture is a huge topic. I want to be in a community of people. Like that was an element of what I was about to do in this new career, was like, it's not a solo endeavor,
Yeah.
right? And it's a myth to be like self-reliant in that way. So
Right. Right.
I just started like surrounding myself with the people and, taking more and more education. I took the soil food web courses so I could do more microbiology. Took some
Mhm.
agroforestry courses with Mark Shepard so I could understand like broad acre applications.
Mhm.
And it doesn't stop, right? Like once you start with permaculture, there's just so many things to learn. You could never know all of it. And I
Mhm.
love that community aspect because it's generative. Like
Mhm.
the stimulating of ideas with your peers and whatnot is just an element of what comes of it. Yeah.
Yeah, my definition of permaculture has changed so much, over the last few years. And what I originally thought was, how you grow plants with other plants. you know well, really, that's, I mean, you and I were joking earlier that I was, I come from the world of just being a dead combat, a dumb combat redneck, and how, how this whole thing's kind of progressed. But I'm learning as we go on, and I'm still learning about how broad that topic really is. It's
Yeah.
way bigger than just a couple plants that grow together. It's way bigger than putting marigolds at the base of your tomato plants.
Yeah, absolutely. And right, it starts with that pattern recognition. That's kind of like the first thing you jump into. If you look at Bill Mollison, he's actually the one that created the textbook about
Yeah,
permaculture.
yeah.
And you can go through the layers of the book there. It talks about climate, geography, and you're looking at your water, your structures, access, the flora, fauna, fungi. There's a lot of these different layers, right? So yeah, you're absolutely right about that expansive, it's kind of like jumping into a rabbit hole.
Yeah.
And what's really nice about that too is that, you can learn as much as you want about one thing and then, oh, you can just kind of like weave over here and there's going to be a whole nother huge thing that you can jump into.
Yeah, well, what I'm so excited about is you're actually figuring out how to take that to a whole nother level, right? You talked about the complexity of it before. I mean, your world just even more complex. We'll get into that, but I'm super excited about that because I think, again, I think bridges being built are a key component of how we as a people go back and take our control. And I think you're kind of leading the charge in that in a lot of ways. And Callie Blackwell, who I know you guys have become good friends.
I love her.
She created a bridge that allowed the next bridge to be built. And again, we'll go on and talk about that. But before we get too far, I wanted to share everybody with how we know each other, just kind of a little background, because I think it's important. As you guys know, I've gotten involved in some permaculture things and the Earth Council and some of these other kind of things. But we here at my farm have always wanted to build more of some type of academy, right? Some way where we could show people how to live free and how to take that control back, how we starve the beast, right? How we lessen our dependency on a system and how we take accountability for ourselves. And so we've always had this idea. And then, so through another mutual connection, I ran into Lindsay and Graham, who I'm going to have Graham on at some point as well. But, and started talking a little more about maybe we could, bring some of those models here. So we agreed that we were going to do this, and we would do some design work. And we went and we did a bunch of soil samples. You guys in the audience know I did a video on it. We did some of those things. We did some aerials. We did some initial conversations. And then it was time where I could partner with Lindsay and Graham, and they were going to come down here. And so that we could do a site visit and we could walk around and we could see what's actually here, that Kansas truly isn't this flat land with nothing on it that, many people think. But anyway, so, but I asked them if they would delay coming down for a couple weeks, even though it'd be nice to get the project done. On my side, I didn't feel like I could tell the story without the Midwest Preparedness Project. I thought that if they could come down and experience that from themselves, that one, they would understand how I think a lot better and what my true motivations are. And so I asked them if they would come down, and they came down to the festival. Lindsay was kind enough to talk, and I'm gonna let you talk about this more than me, but it was an amazing experience for me to watch some of these things created. But so you come down, we do our site visit. We'll get back to my land in a little bit, but talk about the Midwest Preparedness Project, and because you're kind of going into would not traditionally be your crowd, right?
I don't know. I'm an Albertan, right? So it's like, it really felt like home to me, right? Being in Kansas felt like home, and it felt like even your community as well. It's just like, it was like a family reunion. Really, it's exactly the way it looked like for us. We would rent a lake. My grandma had like 18 children, right? So our family's massive. So that, just that setting, it was just so familiar to me. I was just immediately grounded, immediately comfortable. Everyone was so welcoming and lovely, and just all of it. Like, I felt very at home. I felt very welcome. And yeah, it was really amazing just to see everybody supporting each other, and what you've done in terms of promoting that. So allowing people to, have their cards up on that hanging thing. Everybody kind of put their cards there so that they can encourage networking, and like having the QR codes. I thought that was brilliant, just along the stage where you can just go up there and, scan them and immediately connect to these people. So, because that's what it's all about, right? It's this connectivity. And I know we can touch on that in a little bit as well. But, the way that I saw it, that you had the children integrated was fantastic. It wasn't just like, go over there and play a game. It's like actual life skills, right? Learn how to build a fire. Like, it's so incredible, and teaching them patience, right? And teaching them, also manners, and like, being calm and being able to contain yourself and things like this. So like real life skills that you're teaching through like a really fun scenario for them, which is phenomenal.
Yeah. So talk a little bit about you speaking there, because I thought that was kind of a little bit of a magical moment for me to sit back. And I'm notorious leaning against a tree, taking it all in. This is traditional tag. You want to talk a little bit about your talk and about how you felt and how that all went?
Absolutely. I loved it. I've been a performer for about 25 years. I'm a musician. I'm a dancer. I'm a performer. So I hadn't really, gotten up in front of a crowd for a while. So it was just like, it just reminded me how much I love that, right? I love storytelling. I love capturing the attention of people. And people were like, everyone just sat there. They were so attentive. They weren't talking amongst everyone was really engaged. And they had so many brilliant questions, and people were just so interested in what I was talking about. And I thought it was really interesting because, like you say, like redneck country, right? This is
Right, right,
Alberta, like it's redneck country, right? Like this is our people. So I know what it's like when somebody comes in and, brings up energy and all these kind of like ethereal, mystical sorts of things, which is completely me, obviously. But like the bridge was there, right? People were connected to it. And yeah, it was so amazing because, I was kind of wavering on that. And it was actually the day before, or when we'd had the panel talk and Kelly was there,
mhm,
and she started bringing up some energy stuff. And I was like,
mhm.
oh, she did it. Okay, I'm on it. Let's do this, right? I was like, so she really inspired me to just like,
Yeah,
get out of my head about that and just, do talk about these things because it is my soul food. This is my intention. This is why I'm here to share that. So, and yeah, just like busting out with a song and just people being like, what is she? Oh, she's singing. Like, oh, what's going on here? Right? Like, I just love it. So, and like through storytelling too, like that's another thing that we're tapping into here is bringing back that element of humanity and
yeah,
storytelling that really connects us to our ancestors, to our children, and everything in between. Connecting into people's emotions is going to connect into their memory and it's going to have more impact in their life. So there's just so many things that were born of that little talk that we planned. So I'm so thrilled that we waited for that
yeah,
site visit. Like it wouldn't have been the same had I not met all that community. I had some, opportunities to also come to a few events with you, right? Like the banquet and do a couple of site visits for people while we were there, just to
yeah.
see what they're up to. And yeah, it's just incredible.
Yeah. So if you guys know, so what Lindsay's talking about is prior to going to the Midwest Preparedness Festival, we pulled the community and had a big dinner at one of our local, dives that we love to go to, and they open up just for us, and so it was just all of us, and it's a really cool experience. And then the next day, Lindsay sat on the Freedom Panel with Callie Blackwell and me, and some of the other people, and kind of got to open the bridge, I would argue, at that moment. And but I want to tell you, Lindsay, I just think it's so empowering that we live in a world today where they teach us to hate each other. And they teach us that Democrat versus Republican, or white versus black, or gay versus straight, or whatever it is, whatever box you want to stick around it. And yet there's some of us in the world like you, Lindsay, and Callie is another great example, who have the courage to step through that bridge and to say, hey, we're not that different, and we're there's so many things that unites us. And I think you're a demonstration piece of exactly that. And I think that's just powerful. And if I would have gotten nothing out of all of this, that would have been worth every penny I spent. That would have been worth all of it, to watch those bridges get created. Now, when we talk about these bridges, I know you made some connections. You want to talk about that a little bit? Because I think that's pretty cool too.
Oh man, did I ever, and of course we've already spoke about Callie. I've also connected with her son. So
Yeah.
that's incredible. Also Jeremy Marshall, who I'm going to be working with to build a calculator
Yeah.
for permaculture demonstration site. So we're working on that together. The combat midwife as well. She was there in attendance, and her and I are designing a male and female garden model
Yeah.
that expresses the stages of life and different plants that support people through those stages of life. And it's interesting because through our process, it's morphing and it's changing all the time. I'm doing a mock design of it right now at my parents' property so that I can understand, the spatial awareness of being in it and how we can integrate those plants. So it's really cool. Just it's like this amoeba that we're bringing life to over time, because each time we meet, or I met her in person. First I met her in video, and then it was in person, and now we're going to do another video, and then I'm doing something on the land. So there's all these pieces, towards a birth of a new model. And ultimately, what's going to come of all of this generative ideas that are coming out of working with you and working with this project is going to be creating the armagarden model, where I'm combining, a lot of these strategic defense people that I met and had conversations with, and, different elements of how can we weave in this. It's not self-reliance. I can't really put my words on it yet, because I
Yeah.
haven't done the creative writing aspect of this project yet. But even just before this meeting, I had another idea from a friend up here in Canada. We're talking about sacred geometry, and ideas, and how, the immaterial comes into material form. So this is another bridge that I'm walking on right now a lot.
Well, since we're on the topic of bridge, and since you've used it several times, armagarden. So let's
Yeah.
talk about, what is armagarden? Where does it even come from?
It's
Give us a scoop, girl.
exactly right. Like, where do ideas come from?
Right.
Like, how fascinating is that? But they do, right? And they come in places of stillness, and when we take really good care of ourselves, right?
Yep.
So I'm in this place. I'm in this whole month of June is actually really, I'm taking this time for myself to, I'm pretty good at taking care of myself and my health and whatnot. I like to work out a lot. I eat pretty well and all that sort of thing. I sleep well. But, the work-life balance, I was having a little bit of challenges with. So I'm just, I'm slowing down so that I can really take a look at, it's really easy to go from up here to up here, but you got to oscillate, right? So I'm taking this oscillation moment, even though I'm, still generative and still working quite a lot. I'm weaving as much pleasure and enjoyment and fun
Good.
into it. And I'm taking a lot of time to like go into the mountains. And like yesterday, I shot a video for Permaculture Canada. You can see it on my Instagram channel about, what I'm doing with Permaculture Canada and, what that looks like. But that creative process, that's something that's going to inspire more of that to occur, because I'm in my creative element. I'm also in the mountains and I'm meditating. So more ideas are coming from this, where it's like the more enjoyment I get out of my own life, the better the ideas come, and the stronger my magnetism is for the people that I want to call into my sphere. And that's what's happening on a big scale right now. It's just, so, I'm planning all these trips just because, like, I don't have this end goal. Oh, I'm going to achieve this thing and I'm going to have this thing. I'm just like, I'm really enamored by the process and the mystical effect of like what my next step does and who comes to me. I'm always bewildered by like how these souls cross my path, and then just kind of looking on how they all connect to each other and whatnot. And yeah, I just feel like this is the way of the universe. If you can just get out of your own head and just kind of follow the flow, you'll be shown exactly where you need to go.
Yeah, so what is an armagarden?
Oh yes, I didn't answer that question.
That's okay. That's why I'm here. Right?
That is why you're here. I know. I'm like, okay. Armagarden is a model, right? So it's a model for a permaculture site. So it's integrating the permaculture elements of what we want to have on our properties, like the rainwater and the composting and the soil. So like all those topics that we barely briefly covered, it's a design for a homestead element that also adds on things like, the medicine garden, right? So that you can be a little bit more self-sufficient in that area. Protection on your perimeter, so that you can know where energy is moving in and out of your land. Water storage, right? So that you have cisterns underground, things like that. So, I'm playing on the Armageddon theme because, people are kind of sensitive to these things.
Yeah.
And becoming aware of them, which is good. I'm not trying to play on the fear. It's like play on the fun of being, prepared. Like how to human. Again, it's just an extension of my yoga studies and everything I've done before. It's just kind of morphing and, kind of changing as I grow with it.
Yeah, well, I think it's such a fascinating idea how we can create not we, I didn't do you, how you can create that bridge between the homesteading, permaculture world and the prepping world.
Yeah.
And the armagarden is this perfect bridge that unites us. And it's way bigger than, my farm. It's way bigger than what the gardens you're putting in up there. I mean, it actually can serve as a bridge to unite these people that the fact of the matter is have so much in common. Lindsay, you and I have a ton in common.
Yeah.
We come from different places, different worlds, but we have a lot in common.
Yeah.
And I just think it's just such a remarkable, idea. And I can't wait to see it, blossom as you continue to go down that armagarden, path. And her and I shared a pretty good laughs out of that too, because the idea came up at Midwest. Kind of, we were talking about it, and she's running around about, don't Google search it, it'll raise the price.
Yeah. I was telling everybody in the crowd because I just thought about it on site while we were talking, and And right away, I brought it to the conversation when I was doing my talk in front of everybody. It's like, yeah, don't Google that or it'll up the cost of the domain name, which I purchased right away, and it's just holding there for me.
Yeah.
I've got the logo in process and whatnot. And it's like, I'll just briefly show you like my Permaculture Canada cards. It's got like a metallic finish on it, right? So,
Yep.
and I'm also working with like the divine masculine and feminine with what I'm doing, right? So Permaculture Canada is the feminine kind of like ecosystem restoration, broadacre farming applications, like let's make change in the world that matters, that stays, and let's figure out how we can get the next 7 generations to want to adopt these things and keep these projects alive. And then armagarden is more like the masculine, right? Like the action and take care of, and it's just a completely different thing, and it's going to have a similar, like the triangular gold, right? It's going to be gold backed because it just makes sense, right? And I didn't talk about, but like there's other elements in armagarden where we're working with like food security, right? We're working with animal rotations, things like that, how to deal with your human waste, how to get off grid, right? And things like that. So yeah, there's a lot of elements to that. I'm really excited to develop it because the sheer nature of it is stimulating ideas I wouldn't have normally thought about for a permaculture demonstration site. And I don't want to give all my cookies away. So I'm for a surprise.
Yeah, I may ask several times, but just ignore me and go on to the.
Okay, I could do that.
Yeah, I deal with that well. I've been married a long time. It'll work out. It'll work out just fine. So you came to Kansas. Was Kansas what you thought it would be? And had you been here before?
No, I hadn't been there before, and I had heard that it's just like here. So I wasn't expecting as many rolling hills as there was, and I was really pleasantly surprised on how clean it was, because I've traveled a lot in the States, especially last year, doing site visits all over the place, and I'll tell you, the roadsides were not as tidy. So it was just really nice to see some really clean countryside, right? And I just happened to be there at a super, super green moment, right? So it was just beautiful. And the people, are so friendly. And I love the history in the buildings, like the walnuts and stuff in the churches and the bricks in the road and things like that. Like, yeah, I just love that. So it is very, very similar to Alberta and countryside, like Alberta, Saskatchewan, where I'm from, and a lot of my family is here. It's very familiar territory for me to just be in this sprawling farmlands as far as the eye can see, sort of thing. Yeah.
Yeah, super neat. Well, let's talk a little bit, switch gears a little bit. Let's talk a little bit about the project we're actually working on here. Just a little bit. And so before we begin, you've done so many of these, but how is this one different?
Yeah, this one's different because it's got the festival, right? Into it. And this is huge on my range of people that are calling into my sphere right now. This is a huge element of it. It's community, but it's celebration and it's demonstration, right? So your property has so many different elements where it's like we always work with the homestead itself. So you and your home and your immediate surroundings and how the zones in permaculture, like the proximity of things that are located to you, the energy required to get to those things, the steps you take, all of that. So we're considering a couple of zone zeros is what we call it on your place. So there's actually 3 now, right? So usually we just have one zone zero. It's the house and then the surrounding. And then we kind of look at the systems and whatnot in relation to that. But with your property, we have the zone zero in your home. And then we have another one with the community building for the entire festival grounds, which is temporary, right? So that's like how do we work with that? It's not always going to have all of these things. It's going to sometimes have some of these things. So how do we maximize the design in terms of considering our space and what we do in between the festival time? And then there's another zone as well, because we have kind of a miniature permaculture demonstration site that can be a little bit more open and outward facing that somebody else can manage, right? So there's a lot of different elements. There's, there's also another zone zero, I guess you could consider, in the tenting area over by the pond, where we want to demonstrate different ways of earthen building in that area, right? Those could each individually be zone zeros. So it's starting to look like a very different conglomerate of ideas than anything I've ever done. And I see it like crystalline in form, right? Like the way crystals grow. right? There's all these geodes, and they have different weights, and they have different, the way that a crystal grows is very varied, right? It's not equal, and neither are these design components, right? So yeah, it's just a really fun creative experiment, and that's probably why I'm so fueled, right? Is because it's putting me in this generative creative process. And like I said, like that's when I'm my best as an artist, right? To be able to be in that space.
Yeah, and I hope that I haven't hindered you at all in the creative process.
No way, man. Not at all. No. I don't know how you would. You're way too free, right?
Yeah, I'm a pretty free guy, but I want to make sure that you feel the freedom to just explode that, and whatever, and again, I don't know what the answer is, but we'll figure it out along the way. But another thing you had said to me while we were talking a little bit, and correct me if I'm wrong, but most permaculture designs are done on a quarter acre of land or 2 acres of land or something along those lines. Is this I would assume this is not a traditional size canvas that you're playing with, or is that not true?
Yeah, I think there's everything in between, right? Like permaculture can be applied from the smallest space to the hugest space. So it just depends on like what the motive of the designer that you're working with is as to what kind of work that they're doing. So there is a lot of work out there where it's kind of like people to people, working with individuals in their homes to do that sort of thing. And that's a model, right? And then there's people that are working like with Permaculture Canada, I'm looking more to work with like organizations, right? Colleges and schools and changing policy and government and things like that. And then we're also doing like homestead design and demonstration sites and things like that. So I think the whole gamut is out there and open. It's just, there's only one person in this body. So, do what I can. Yeah. I love it all. I'm enjoying, I guess, more now as of late that it's not what I want, it's how can I serve. So it's like, how does what I want serve the greater whole? So it's not just about achieving the needs or desires of a person, but it's about, contributing back. So it's that equal energy exchange.
Yeah, I kind of asked that question because, I've done a ton of research trying to find some type of permaculture demonstration site that is close to what we have here. Something that's got the same kind of space or the same kind of, and man, I haven't found anything. I mean, literally almost nothing. I found a lot of, 1 acre backyards. There's many, 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 many of those, but I just haven't quite found something that does that. So kind of why I asked the question.
Yeah. And I think you're well ahead of the game, like really. And it's because of that inspiration in your heart of wanting to connect to your community that's created that and, and giving you that. And I think that, listening to your wife about, how she was inspired too. And like that would be a dream. Right.
Yeah.
So I was really happy to hear that from her and to know that from both of you. Like you're both in it to win it. You're both in it to do this and you want to do the work because that's the demographic of the people that I'm looking to work with is people that know it takes work and you want to be there because you want to connect back to the earth. You want to do the work. You don't want to just like leave it over there. You want to like be part of it and watch it grow. And yeah, I haven't seen anything like what I'm currently designing for you. I've never seen, which is, so wonderful for that process of creation because if the box is blown wide open, right? And I don't feel like I have any perimeters or barriers or anything. Like I'm want to come to the table with, I'll show you.
Yeah. Which I love the creative side. I don't know if I ever told this, but I had an art teacher when I was young. I never forgot this, but he said to me one day, he said, Rowdy, art is the only thing that's never wrong. And I always remember that, because it's an interpretation and, there's nothing wrong in that. And I don't know why I've always remembered that, but, I definitely are. So let's keep talking about design. So don't let the cat out of the bag, right? And anything you don't want to say.
I know.
But are there any particular key elements that will go in through this whole process that you want to talk about?
Yeah. Well, you have already such a great, foundation for what you're doing. So it's really nice just to, take a look at what you already have and see how we can amplify your yield and how to increase what you already have without creating so much disturbance that you have to move everything around. Cause I don't think that's necessary. I'm really excited that you have so much water on your land. That's a real gift and a real opportunity for you to be able to store and capture water. That's huge. You have topography, so you have different levels where we can utilize those waters to regenerate the land. So that's really exciting to me. And exploring all these earthen buildings, right? Because 15 years ago, I was doing hempcrete and I was doing American clay and all these because I'm a sculpture major, right? I'm very tactile. I like to build things with my hands, and that's being woken as well. So I'm getting really connected again to the hemp community up here, people that are doing alternative building materials, everything from bioplastics, from planting it for the farmer and things like that. So hemp has been on my radar for a number of years. I've had my license. I've done research and development with hemp on an acre of property and whatnot, just to see what we can do with the plant and how to, modify how it grows and things like that. So I know I'm getting a little bit off track, but a part of that is that, in that building area where you want to have some either temporary or permanent housing, using these as opportunities where you can educate your community about the different building styles while getting a building yourself. And I can see how that will ripple through your community because you've got that, which is, something you can't put a price tag on. Right? It's not quantifiable. And this is kind of the realm that I'm a qualitative person, not a quantitative person. And these are the sorts of things that really jazz me out. It's like, how can we concentrically share this? How can we disseminate information? How can we decentralize what we're up to? So I can weave these kinds of ideas into the model that I'm building for your property. And that's something that I do in garden design as well. This concentric idea, right? The drop in the water with the ripples going out. This is a model of an idea that I'm working with when I'm designing gardens in the ground, when I'm looking at the patterns in the land and how it moves, how energy moves through the land, how the topography, like, the hills and whatnot are suggesting what to do there, because it really is a process of listening to the land and responding, not going there and telling it what to do. But it's, again, that give and take relationship so that there's always the cohesiveness between the energy exchange.
Yeah, this is such an interesting topic because again, you're bridging out way beyond, in my opinion, just, your normal, what you would read about in a permaculture. This is so much broader to all of that. I think, for me, that's just incredible, to try to include all of that. Because I think from my audience and the people that will be in the chat, there's people in there who would consider themselves permaculturists. But I think at the same time, this is a fairly new topic to a lot of them because a lot of it, again, I was a prepper first. And, I turned to a homesteader, right? I evolved to that step, but I come from the other world. And, and maybe you could talk about that a little bit as, why does permaculture matter to prepping, and why should people be focused on that regenerative thing versus, just stacking beans to the ceiling?
Yeah, because the symbiotic relationships that we're creating, benefit you and save you energy. So that's one way of thinking about it. Everybody wants to save energy or money or whatnot and things like that. Those are quantifiable, and you can explain that to people, and you can, create a model that can communicate that sort of thing to people. So I think that, like, the whole armagarden is going to be the best way to demonstrate that question that you ask of me right now, like the perimeter plantings and how you can prevent people from coming into your property with your plants, right? And those energy flows, right? Where is it easy for them to come in and where is it not? And working with that, like, these are the sorts of things that we're looking at. So.
Yeah, I probably never told you the story, but just this would be good for you to know. So when I came out of the military, when I served over in Africa, and so when I got to see what tribal warfare really was, what gang warfare really was. I'm not talking about the kind of gangs that we have in Kansas City, Missouri. I'm talking about warlords, right? And for me, my journey was, hey, just put a little bit of food away, because then on a dark day we'd have a little extra food, and then that progressed a little bit to, maybe I should, have a well, or maybe I should store a little bit of water, to progress to, it'd be nice to have a little bit of a garden, which progressed to one day I woke up and realized I can't store enough food. It's not possible. I need a farm. I got to find a way to, like be able to grow it year after year. Right. And because supplies will eventually, run out. And then I had the whole COVID thing happened to me, and I started thinking, wait a second, I'm controlled by everybody. I have no control over my own life. The mortgage company controls me. The system controls me. The electric company controls me. The water company controls me. Everybody controls me. I got no control over my own life, and I'm just going to die a slave. This can't happen. I got to do, I got to do something different. I can't live this life no more. And then it's just progressed and progressed and progressed. And so I think that, again, the armagarden creates this incredible bridge, bringing the worlds together. And I just can't compliment you enough on that. I mean, I think that's just.
Yeah, I'm so excited. And like you hit it on the hill, that thing,
Yeah.
Living food, right? Who wants to eat canned food for a lifetime, right? What good is your water if it's like cases of water and plastic, that sort of thing. Like this morning, our whole city woke up to a 6:30 a.m. emergency alert because the water line broke somewhere, and the big fear mongering and everything. Nobody shower. And like, we're talking about a big city, Calgary, Alberta, right? So these things, they're starting to touch home, more randomly, more often. I go to Canmore to get my water because that's where, spring water is. But of course, you got to get in your car and drive to the mountains. But it's worth it. It's really, really, really clean water. Yeah.
And, it's interesting, Lindsay, for me, I have kind of, I don't really think much about the shit hitting the fan, or I don't spend a lot of time there anymore. What I spend all my time trying to figure out how to do is just how to control my own. Because I figure that if I can control my own, when that's my food supply, my water supply, my home, debt, energy, I mean, all of these things, if I can control my own, I'm pretty impervious to a lot of the actions that are done outside of what I can control. And so I focus all my attention there. I don't really watch that much of the news. I don't really go to the movies. I just don't, I've kind of, evolved right. Kind of through that process. And I think it's neat that, we've partnered in a way that we can now express that in a whole new level, in a much grander level. And I think people need to see it. I know many, many people out there who are caught in, analyzing all of things that are going on in our world instead of just taking control. Yeah. Which I think is key, at least to me it is just take control of my own outcome,
Yeah, it's empowering, right? It's empowering, not having that control, right?
Yeah. It's amazing to get up every day and do exactly what I want to do. And that all has to be done, right? Mm-hmm. But, B spent all day yesterday in our garden, planting and, pulling weeds and, and all of those kind of things. But yeah, it is absolutely empowering. And for any of you guys out there listening, I promise you can do it.
Yeah, and there's so much more that you just brought up there, just in those few sentences you talked about, right? With being in the garden, right, and our hands being in the soil and the microbiome of our gut and whatnot, and how that the microbiology of our body is affected, and things like about the food that we're planting, right? When we're actually planting it with our hands, and then eating it, and how that relationship, works and is measurable and things like that. It's all very new for us to be considering and looking at these things, right? So there's so much potential in the knowledge that's still yet to be revealed about that. And then the other thing that you brought up that stimulated me, it was like, it was another one of these ethereal things. Oh, I think I might have lost it, but it was like how to put the expression of an idea into form. So I don't know where it was from, but something you said, maybe lost that one.
Oh, it happens to the rest of us. My wife reminds me of how much I forgot every day.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, every single day. Well, I mean, I think the world we're living in today, I mean, they had that big study that came out over Coca-Cola and Sprite talking about all the nanoparticles of plastic that's in it. And, they test city water systems today, and it's full of birth control. And it's full of this nanoplastics, that are in everything. And, I don't think it's just a coincidence that we have this huge spike in ADHD and autism and all of these other things that go on in our world when all we're eating is crap. And, all we're drinking is that. And, I think this gets back down to accountability and taking responsibility for ourselves again, and not worrying about what everyone else is doing and start worrying about what we're doing.
That's right. Yeah. So that's two more things. So I remembered the other thoughts. So that's
okay. Cool. There you go.
Yeah. So, the two things that you touched on those. So it's like that fear and attention thing, right? And how much people, it's that what you put your focus on, actually energizing more of that in the earth. And whether people believe that or not, your perception of what's going on is going to affect every decision that you make. So it's really important to reel it in, and really have focused, attention. And it's life force energy, right? And we are, the movers and shakers between the two planes of the cosmos and the earth. We're the ones here making the change, right? Humans are the ones here bringing the immaterial into material form, right? And that's a big deal. So it is important. It is important on what you want to infuse your intellect and your creative spirit and everything with, because you're going to create from that place, right? So that was one thing. And then you mentioned health, right? And that was a big thing in the prepper community too, that I feel like could really be highlighted. It's like, yeah, great. You got all your stuff taken care of. This is great. But like, can you run a mile? Can you run 2 miles? Can you run 5 miles? Can you pick that up? Can you bring your water into the house? Like these sorts of things, so it's like health and taking care of yourself. So in permaculture, zone 0 is the body, inside the body. And we're starting to work with things like this, like the mind as well, and mindset, and how the effect on that in your lifestyle and how you operate in the world. How good you're doing in your business is going to have to do with how good you're taking care of yourself. We know this, right? Your outer world is a reflection of your inside. So yeah, it's great to be working with this stuff.
Yeah. I have people in my business world, when I'm not in a freestanding t-shirt and a grid down hat, in my business world, who say to things, man, do you work out? Do you, where's your gym membership at? I'm like, I ain't stepping a foot in the gym. There ain't no way. I got so much shit to do. You ever want to be oh my God, same person's called 3 times. That ever happened to you? Like, if I'm not going to answer it the first time, what makes you think I'm going to answer it 27 seconds later? Anyway.
As long as it's not your kid, we're good.
Yeah, just ranting. But, and you talk about health, but what a great way to keep your health up than by having things like a food force.
Yeah.
Because it's not easy, right? I mean, you're going to get out there and work.
Yeah. Yeah, you're definitely going to be out there working. You've got to take part in it. If you could leave it out there, but chances are the deer's going to eat it if you don't take care of it or cage it or do something, right? And plants are going to benefit from your interaction with them as well and be stronger if you're out there, taking out the species that you don't want, planting the species that you do want to make that tree grow and whatnot. Yeah, the human interaction piece is really important.
Yeah.
Because there's always that, in permaculture, there's that respond, call and respond kind of sort of motive. It's like observe and react. And, that change is a constant. So it's not like the work is ever done, because there's always going to be change in nature. There's going to be disturbance from storms. There's going to be, and that's just part of it, right? It is a real reflection of our lifestyle, though. Like there's so much we can learn about ourselves in the garden.
Oh, so much. And I think I would argue that my wife's a more pleasant person when she gets dirt therapy every day.
Yeah,
I would. Sure. She gets out there and gets played in it and all that. She seems to be all bubbly and, happy and, all of those kind of things, because she got, her moments of therapy, in there a little bit. So let's talk about permaculture some more. So how much, when you're thinking about doing a permaculture for somebody, how much time do you spend on a plant that would traditionally grow there versus what will grow there just because of a zone? Like, you try to stay heavy in a native species versus bringing in stuff that would not natively be there.
Yeah, I know we are always encouraging that, because ultimately permaculture kind of stems from ideologies around ancestral wisdom, in my opinion. Mm-hmm. So that, I feel like that's something really important to honor for every place. And I encourage people to find out, like, who are the people of your area, and do you know anything about them? And, learning about the medicinals and the food, the way they ate and things like that, and encouraging those species, because that's what wants to grow there. A little less of I want this and a little bit more of what is the land ready to support, and the soil will tell us a lot about that. What plant species are growing there is going to tell us a lot about the soil. And then we can work with those species, right? It's like, this is a really great ground cover here. Let's use that. Let's not try to bring in clover or something to instead, let's utilize what's already going to be there, and, maintenance free, really, so that it's just going to naturally proliferate on its own. Mm-hmm. And then, it's going to highlight things that are disappearing in our planet as well. Like up here, it's perennial carrot is it's not as prolific as it was in certain places, and landscapes are changing, of course, like with temperature changes and whatnot, and because of industry and, hills being removed and waterways being changed and things like that. So having the opportunity to bring back some of these native species is important because it's going to support our native bees as well, which is super important, right, for proliferating more food in the world or closer in your inhabitants. So yeah, I definitely weigh on that quite a lot. And it's like, sure, we have the recognizable things that we can harvest a little bit more readily and get a little bit more, mass out of, like an apple tree as opposed to a perennial carrot, which is like
Mhm.
tiniest little thing, right? Yeah.
Yeah, did you read that? Or I don't know if you heard seen that article, but there's some leaders around the world talking about how the honeybee um, population needs to be controlled because it's eliminating the other natural pollinators. Did you read that?
Yeah, and I have read a lot about the bees, and I don't want to get on it, stepping on toes about bee stuff, but honestly, really, we do have to be supporting native species, the flowers that grow for native bees, which of course do not, hive and make honey, right? So, like, this is the desire that's coming from honeybees, and I love honey as well, and all of that, but I'll just pose it as questions. Are bees meant to be hived? Are they meant to be, like, here? And where are these bees coming from? And what happens to the native bee species when these other ones are brought in? Especially because a lot of the pollen for, different commercial plantings or whatnot are going to be consumed by those honeybees.
Mm-hmm.
The native bees are going to be looking for things that they're used to, right? Like the more native species and whatnot. So that's why it's another important design element to weave in. It's like,
That's interesting though. How do you reconcile the differences between the benefit for mankind, right? My wife has bees, as you know, and we really enjoy the honey. And so what's the balance between native? Because if those bees go up into a 30-foot tall tree and do their thing, they're going to be there the rest of their lives. I'm not climbing up there to get them, right? I mean, that seems like a lot to me, but there's got to be some balance in all of that, right? Between providing for humans, right, our needs, and then yet letting nature be nature.
Yeah, and I think that that's like in the choice of your plantings and whatnot, and supporting both things equally, right? Not weighing it one way or the other, and just considering about the things that are happening, right? Like, so like a lot of people are having a lot of issues with the bees, getting sick and dying because of, glyphosate and all these different things, but it could also be from this, like repetitive hiving pattern that we've put them into. Like, how natural is that? Maybe there's a way that we can revolutionize the way we're doing beekeeping, even with species that are brought in from other places. If that's the path that we're going to continue on anyways, where people want to have these honeybees, I'd like to see somebody come up in this space and revolutionize how that's done, in conjunction with the native bee population. Maybe there's a different way, and I'm not a beekeeper myself, so for me to come up with it is not my expertise, but it's like, I feel like we're in that zone right now, right? People are not readily accepting information and questioning it, and that's what's creating the generative space for all these new things to be coming. So it's great.
Yeah, I look forward to that. I know that you were talking earlier about the Through Life Garden, and I wanted to share everybody the story. This began as talking about a girl garden. That's where the conversation started, right? About because girls have different health needs than boys, and how do we celebrate our queen, right? In my house, my wife is the queen, and there ain't no doubt about it, right? 100%. How do we do that? And then that slowly progressed to the different stages of life for both male and female, right? Because we all go through, a little bit different, and, or the, Alzheimer's or dementia, or, at one end, and, the other things at the other end. And so it's been neat for me to watch that whole process kind of evolve. And I can actually close my eyes and picture it, even though I've seen nothing, right? I don't have any idea. I picture the, girl garden, this big expressive thing of the female reproductive system, and men, there's a rock, and there it is. Men's needs, Girls need. Am I close? Am I close?
Not even close. No, no, I don't think a rock will do you much good. There's only one thing you could do with the rock. Well, I guess there's a few things you could do with the rock. It was really interesting too, like working with combat midwife, because I was really looking to her for her recipes and and our generative discussion around different things that we go through in different genders or whatnot, those stages of life. But even what you said there, like celebrate the queen, that's just another element that I can now add into the design, is that, and again, this is one of these like immaterial to immaterial form. How do we celebrate the queen? What does that look like when we put it in tangible space? Right. So yeah, and the design for that garden, it's very naturally like evolving with the more ideas that come to the table, and then there's little baby ideas popping off about it, right? Because then now I've got the stages of life story kind of running in my head, so it's like, well, that's a whole other thing too, like about stages of life without the gender specific stuff, and it's like a neutrality point that also stimulates more ideas. So it's this constant microcosm of sacred geometry in my mind, which is what I'm trying to navigate, is like how to put this in material form to start being able to communicate what I'm talking about, or what I feel, or what I see in my creative world out there in the world. So Armagarden is going to be a great demonstration site to prove that this is what I'm talking about. And there's so many different things that are weaving into this, like the community aspect and the festival organization, and organizing people and process and the stages of development. Like all of these things are included in the project that I'm doing, even with you, as I start to design something brand new. Yeah. So it's and this whole month is a good creative generative month for me, and it's because I've put that time aside for myself that I can deep dive into this. And because I've done that, people are coming to me that are thinking about this and talking about this, and they're on the exact same level and the playing field that I'm on, where this isn't a flu conversation. And again, it's like where we're getting to that 100th monkey scenario, where it's like there's that many people starting to talk about generating the new world and creating new systems, and what does that look like, and how do we decentralize these models, right? So that we can design it, we can try it ourselves, and then replicate it. And that's kind of always how I work with design and permaculture anyways. It's an idea, I manifest it in a drawing, I try it in the land, you see it over time, you make adjustments, right? So it's never like this final thing. It's always going to be this like changing thing where we just keep adding and adding and adding to it.
Yeah, well, I think the armagarden idea is a building block to the parallel economy, the parallel society, the alternative options. That it could absolutely be the home base, or like I'm in the building block. I don't know a better way to say it. I'm bridging, all of those worlds. And I wanted to say something else kind of backwards. And some people aren't going to agree with me. If you don't agree with me, I love you anyway, so it's fine. But me and my wife have chose very traditional roles in our life. And, my wife is the queen of my house. And I look up to her, and I admire her, and I worship her, and I chase her around just like a good husband's supposed to do. My job is to protect her and provide for her and guide her. And her job is to, be my better half, and to be the thing that keeps me square and keeps me balanced and keeps me successful. When I get up and go to work and I'm headed out to do a task, my wife says things to me like, don't let me down. Be successful today. Without my wife, I wouldn't have achieved half the things I've achieved in the course of my life. And these are just the roles we've chosen. And so to honor all of that, I would be all for, because she is this incredible human being who, again, without her, my life would be a complete mess. And anybody who knows me really well knows this to be true, right? That, she is my grounding rod, and I need it, because without it, again, I'd be a mess. But yeah, so back to Armagarden. I think, again, this is a building block. I'm so excited, Lindsay, to see how this evolves, because I recognize it's evolving all the time. And probably every time we talk, it evolves.
Absolutely.
And, kind of comes out of that. So talk a little bit about timing. So how long do you think it will take you guys to hone in on, I'm assuming you guys do like a rough draft one. How does all this work going forward for the audience?
Yeah, it's usually like it could be about a 3-month process, I
Mhm.
suppose, from start to finish, depending
Yeah,
on the timing of people's lives and whatnot. Of course, that's one thing about permaculture is like the flexibility thing has to be there, right? For
yeah,
both people. You
of
got to
course.
understand, like, we're working with a living, breathing planet Earth here. So there's certain things that dictate what we can and cannot do at certain times of year, right? Like doing a site visit in the winter is going to prove a different result than doing one in the spring, that sort of thing. So we tend to do like a consultation first, of course, to meet you and find out, more about you. And we do a lot of like the geographical research ahead of time.
Yeah,
Before we even have a consultation with somebody, we're looking into the area and learning about the area and your particular land and the watersheds around you and all that sort of thing. And then meeting with you to find out, what are your intentions and what are your
yeah,
goals? Because it's really quite personal, people's
yes,
desire as to why they would call on us to do something like this for them, right? Like, so, and I really like tapping into that intention of the person and the
yeah,
soul and the spirit of what
yeah,
makes them them. Like the stuff you just said about B is amazing. Like honestly, looking at you guys and seeing your love in action. And she's such a powerhouse of a woman, and she's just the energy between you is so inspiring, and I feel like it gives me hope out there in the world that there's still people, relating in this way because it is true love and you're totally supportive of each other. But anyways, aside from that, so a site visit is done after that consultation. And then from there, it could be anywhere from like a month to a month and a half for something of the scale that we're working with here, which is 40 acres, is quite a larger
yeah,
project. It's a different thing. If you're working with like a quarter acre project, that can take 2 weeks, an
right,
acre can take,
fair.
a little less, right? So, and because of the elements too that I'm weaving into this is almost like 5 designs in one, right?
Yeah,
So I have a lot of groundwork done in terms of the concept design, which I've already presented to you. And even from then, I've got some changes that aren't quite in there because it's not a scaled, detailed map. It's a brush stroke of a concept to be like, okay, this is the kind of the placements that we're looking at. Are we on the right track? And we kind of check back in with you. And then once we've got that nailed down, yes, okay, this is where we're going. Okay, then it's go time. Then it's really dialing into the details, and working out multiple maps for the
yeah,
area
yeah,
stemming from this one conceptual map. So now it's detailing out all those single areas. And then, also as we're going, as you've seen, giving you some tasks kind of in a
yeah, you
scaled
think?
out, right? Like, okay, if you can get started because there's so much prep work and there's, sometimes people have to remediate entire fields for a year before they can even start because they've got so much glyphosate in their soil or whatnot. So it's like, well, you might want to plant some crops and stuff to support those before you start planting in your fruit trees so that they have a better chance at thriving. Yeah, so like scope of project and scaling in stages is part of it. Creating that design for each area is a big part of it. Creating the plant lists
Yeah,
and then going over with you after we have all those smaller designs ready to go, and we blast the package at you, and it's going to be a lot of information, right? So
yeah,
there's a process of integration that takes some time, and it can be a little bit overwhelming for people, I think, sometimes when they receive it. It's just like, whoa, but it's not intended to be, I bought this and here it is now. It's like,
right,
this is a process. Like,
right,
this is your next 5 years, right?
right,
So it's not like something that's going to happen tomorrow.
yeah,
And then there's a lot of consideration into what happens when, right?
yeah,
And that's the piece where it's like really helpful for people to call upon professionals because it is a daunting task to do it alone. And if you don't place your things in the right places and you don't have the right elements all considered, you're going to create more work and more money output for yourself in the long run. So yeah, it's helpful to have people to kind of guide you along on, where to put things and have those symbiotic relationships running in a way that's effective.
yeah. It's crazy. I'm only going to say this to, I talk great about my wife because I love her so much, but she's hotter today than she was the day I met her. And yeah, I love chasing her around, but she's kind of a Mongolian slave lord, which is what I call her. And Lindsay, you and her are a lot alike because, guys, I want to tell you something that I got a list from Lindsay. Here's your laundry list of shit to go do, and I'm
Get
oh
her.
my You know,
You're not waiting on me.
no,
I'm waiting on you.
I am not waiting on Lindsay. She very effectively turned the tables of a negotiation to we're clearly waiting on me. It took seconds, and
Well,
I
I have
was
Graham to help me with that too. So I gotta throw some props there to him too, because he's helping on me with this
yeah,
project, which is awesome. And I always recommend, in my own team of designers, like it's when you have someone to work with, it's
yeah,
really, really helpful because then you can bounce things off of each other, right? And kind of have one person doing one thing, one person doing design aspect, one person working on the writing and the quantifying
yeah.
aspect. And yeah.
Yeah, well, we're going to have Graham on the show here before long. I haven't reached out to him yet, but I will. I actually think you and Graham are the perfect. I think you guys complement each other almost perfectly.
Yeah.
You have things that are very, very different, but also things that are very alike. And I watched you guys on numerous occasions at the festival, work together and talk together. And I think you guys are a great combination. I'll tell you, Lindsay, and I mean this, I can't think of having a better team on this project. I just can't.
Yeah.
And you and I've had this conversation. I can't imagine it going any other way. And so, I'm super excited. Hey, we're right at about an hour, but before we get on this any further, real quick, talk about how if someone's interested in, a food forest, or someone's interested in going like, me and go big and, the armagarden or any of that, how do they get a hold of you? How do people find you?
Yeah, they can find me at permaculturecanada.world. And there's actually a calendar booking link on there, as well as, contact form. Just shoot me an email. Really, I like to talk to people to really suss out what they're getting at, because a lot of people, you never know where people are at in terms of their knowledge and what they want to achieve and things like. So yeah, I like to have conversations in that way, or shoot me an email. You can hit me up on Instagram at Permaculture Canada, Facebook, TikTok, all those things, LinkedIn, I'm up there. So pretty much anywhere you want to get at me, you can. Got a YouTube channel, all those things. So just search Permaculture Canada. Lindsay Brandon is my name. It's written there on the screen. Yeah, go to my website, check it out. It's just been rebuilt, and I'm having definitely a glitchy issue today. I used to have a slider photo, and WordPress just updated. Now my slider photo doesn't work. It's like technology is just getting the best of me at times, but whatever. It's a start. You can take a look at some of the designs I've done. I've done some TV show work and things like that. So it's kind of fun just to poke around and maybe look at a couple designs that are on there. And yeah.
So is there an armagarden presence coming soon?
Yeah, there's an armagarden.world website as well. So it doesn't have, I'm not really happy. The logo is a little bit too simple right now. So I'm working on, increasing the strike of my line and adding some gold and how that will look as an embossed image. So I got to get that tickety-boo first. And then it's going to be a lot of writing over the next couple of weeks, which I'm touring in BC. I'm doing a whole bunch of different visits out there. And I'm going to be utilizing that time where I'm like, BC is like some of my favorite country, right? There's lakes everywhere. It's just gorgeous. Yeah. So that's, I'm kind of holding that space for doing that creative writing while I'm there, and starting to get some of this stuff, down on paper in a way that I can start to transmit to other people. And then, I've already got the website going. I've already got the cards half made, and it's going to be a whole other business model. So yeah,
which is super exciting. I can't wait to watch it and help anywhere that I can, through specifically on the the business side. But so one last thing I want to talk about, and then I'll let you get out of here, and we'll let these fine people get back to their beautiful Thursday. So we've been talking a little bit. It sounds like there might be a chance you'd be coming back out here. What, maybe October-ish?
I sure hope so. I would love to, like there's so many people out there that, I just love to see them. And just even the couple site visits that we did, I was just so inspired, what they were doing.
I can't believe we didn't talk about that. Talk about that real quick. I hope you guys don't mind. We'll go a little later. You got out here, you did a site visit here, but then it kind of took off and you were gone. So it was like a fart in the wind. What happened?
Yeah, well, we just visited a fella, and he was growing full-on orchards for the wildlife, right? Like, so his intention was to plant as much food as he could for the wildlife. And I just thought, you're such a beautiful man, like all this. Yeah. And then he just wanted like a hill of flowers for his wife. And I was just like, yes, you're doing the work, and people are investing their money and time, and it's not about them, it's about out there. It was just like so nice. And then, meeting your neighbor that was doing a lot of breeding and stuff, and that was really interesting just to see, his property. And we just offered, because we were there, might as well make the most of our opportunity. And So yeah, no, I would love to come back. It'd be so fun. October would be great because it'll be warmer there than it will be here.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe would you like us to time that around the next preparedness festival? So
I
you're
think
there
so.
too?
I think that would be the
Yeah.
best way to do it. I'd love to get up and do a talk again, and I'd love to network as many people as well. So it's a really nice way to kind of connect a little bit further with the people because, I saw their companies and whatnot, and I tried to follow them and stuff, but I really met so many people on site. People were just coming right up to me and telling me what they were up to. And
Yeah.
that's where the magic happens, is the co-creation piece. So that would be phenomenal. Yeah.
Yeah. Super, super cool. Well, hey, everybody out there, make sure you look up Lindsay, go to Permaculture Canada, make sure you subscribe, make sure you like, let's get involved, right? Well, I mean, at the end of the day, Lindsay's out there creating bridges. And, what we need is a world full of warriors. And it don't matter where we come from. It matters where we're ending and where we're going. And, Lindsay, my hat's off to you. And I, can't applaud you enough for creating those bridges, because the bridges are the hardest thing to, create. And you did it. You figured it out. And, to watch those people listen to you sing from stage to, Lindsay and I were talking before we went live today. And, she was talking about being a crazy hippie, and I was talking about being a dumb militant redneck. And somehow these bridges get created where we create these lasting friendships. And, there's so much, guys, that unites us instead of what divides us. Stop listening to the bullshit on the TV, reach out, again, there's so much that unites us versus what divides us. And I think that's what I'd like to leave you guys with. Lindsay, got any parting words? Anything you want to say before
kill your television? Kill your television, right? Yeah, and also reach out to TAG too, because I'd love to line up as many site visits as I can, while I'm out there with your community.
Yeah.
I think that really maximize, that our space and time down there, because I'm quite a far ways away. And yeah, you have such a community of people around you, and the way that you all support each other and work together, I think that's phenomenal. And yeah, just thanks for having me on the show. I'm super pleased to meet you. I'm having such a good time working with you, and I'm really honored and inspired by you. And thank you for that. Yeah.
Yeah, of course. And yeah, guys, don't forget, reach out to me, because, if we get her here already, that's a pretty good gig. She's already here, right? Yeah. That saves time. That saves money. Right? Yeah. And right. That saves all kinds of things. So feel free to reach out to me. All right, Lindsay. Well, I'm gonna get out of here. I appreciate you. Hold the line. Don't give an inch. Right.
Yeah. Likewise. Take care, Dag.
See you guys. Bye, everybody.